Tertius Makonese from De Montfort University. I'm studying film studies and journalism. I am with you, Chioniso Mlambo. I would like to find out your background history. I understand you have been in Zimbabwe, you are in UK now, and you are working in Australia. Can you tell me more about your background history?
Good morning, Mr. Makonese. My name is Chioniso Priviledge Mlambo Sanganza. Mlambo being my maiden name and Sanganza my married name. I was born on Christmas Day in 1956. Born and bred in Chipinge in Zimbabwe. Chipinge is in the Manicaland province of Zimbabwe. And my grandmother took me from my mother because I was very poorly when I was 9 months of age. And I had a little bit of milk from my grandmother as well because I was still breastfeeding when she took over me. So, natural, my grandmother was my mother. And throughout this interview, I would be referring to my grandmother more because I grew with my grandmother. I started my primary education in Chipinge at Benzi Secondary School. We're staying at number 36 Nyamkunga Farm.
When was that?
That was from when I was 9. I think when I calculated, that would be 1957, when I was taken from Harare, where my parents were, and to my grandmother's place in Chipinge. That's when I did my grade 1. I think I was by then 6 years, from 56. I think that was 62, almost there. That's when I started my sub A. It was still then sub A. We'll do sub A, sub B, then we'll do standard 1 to standard 6. So we had 8 years of primary. When I completed my my primary education, I went to Gideon Mhlanga, which was by then a new school, Gaza Secondary School. When I did my Form 1, but Form 2 I was very poorly. Right now, I now know my diagnosis by being a mental health nurse that it was anxiety disorder. So I didn't finish well my Form 2 because I was so anxious in everything, and it was a terrible disorder. So grandmother and my grandfather just decided to send me to Nyanga, where I was staying with my aunt, Mr. and Mrs. Luwayo. I stayed with them for almost 6 months along the line, and by then the diagnosis was a heart problem because I was having problems with palpitations. Anyway, but I was healed some way, somehow, through prayers when I was in Nyanga. And I went back to Harare because my aunt couldn't remain with me. Then when I was in Harare, that's when I started to go to Universal College. But prior to that, I had stayed briefly in Crewe with my aunt, Mr. and Mrs. Pesanai, who took me as well. Then from Mr. and Mrs. Pesanai, I was staying with Mr. and Mrs. Mataviri, who are my mother's young sisters. That's when I was at the Universal College of Commerce, when I was doing my pattern making, cutting and designing, and I ended up starting working there, which was a blessing anyway because it was a commercial college. By then, I was living alone. I had my first son, Rudendo Denford, who was born on the 28th of October in 1981. That was after the independence. It was not an easy journey because during the independence, I twice was involved, taken by the soldiers for questioning, going to the torture camp and going forwards and backwards. And I was still a youth by then with an intention of also crossing the border to go and fight for the country. But fortunately or unfortunately, whatever, I always put it in brackets, I didn't manage to go.
Where was this?
That was 76, 77.
And where was this?
That was in Chipinga. I tried when I was in Nyanga. That was 75. So when my aunt discovered that I had that in mind, she had to send me back to Harare. From Harare, I was sent back to Chipinge because I was supposed to go. By then, the government had introduced that you carry your identity with you. So you actually had to go to where you were born so that they can do the ID. So I went, and grandma and granddad took me to the major streets area, major street court, whatever, to get my ID. So that's when I made my second attempt to cross the border, but I was very unsuccessful. When grandma and granddad discovered that, they to send me back to Harare. So that's when I started to, my aunt, Mrs. Matavile, just encouraged me to go to Universal College to do the pattern making, cutting and designing, and she paid for everything. She was such a good auntie. She paid for my fees, and I finished. When I finished, I got a job at Universal College to teach dressmaking, cutting and designing. Then, because grandmother kept on saying, you must do your O-levels. You can't just stop at grade 7. Or by then, although when I finished, it was still standard 6, and I didn't manage to write my Form 2. Form 1, Form 2, you would write another exam again. So I did correspondence, and I finished my Form 2. Then when I was at the Universal College, I started to do my O-levels. My first sitting was accounts and commerce. Then I passed. Then I did Shona and religious knowledge. Then I passed. Then I did economics. Then I passed. Then I had 5, but I didn't have English. So I worked at the Universal College until to 1982, when I got a job, because I'd done all the secretarial and others as a stepping stone. So I got a job at the Adult Literacy organization, which was promoting literacy amongst women, because women were disadvantaged. A father would prefer to send his son to get education than daughters. So I was working with them as an admin, then was promoted. I was assistant admin, then promoted to admin when I finished my diploma in adult education with the University of Zimbabwe. That was 1985.
This was still at Universal or?
I was then at the Adult Literacy Organization. I left the Universal College, where I was working, and I got a job at the Adult Education in admin, which was a stepping stone anyway, because the manager was there, Mrs. Evelyn Shava. She was very strict in education.